In this video, we discuss topics that include sexual abuse, suicidal ideation, and self-harm. These subjects may be distressing or triggering for some viewers. Please take care of your mental and emotional well-being while watching. If you or someone you know is struggling, we encourage you to reach out for help. Resources and support services are listed in the description below.
Welcome to the Future is Foster podcast, powered by Raise a Child. I'm your host, Nancy Mogi. I was adopted at 17, and I'm ready to talk all things foster and adoption. Someone has to.
When I was living in that facility, I was sexually assaulted multiple times.
How old were you?
I was between 9 and 10. 9, 10, 11. I was really young. So I was AWOL for a year and a half, and it was just a year and a half of just hardcore partying and doing drugs and sleeping around. And
How old were you
I'm
at this
13.
age?
I'm
Wow.
13 at this time, which is insane also to think
Absolutely.
back to.
Yeah.
I mean, I always knew at a young age from my experience of not having, a safe person that I always wanted to be that person for other former foster
You
youth.
just didn't know how yet.
So yeah, I started to go to school, worked at a group home, got my AA, then my bachelor's. Now I'm in my grad program, getting my MSW.
Wow, congratulations. That's amazing news.
And my job is to plant a seed and to hope it grows. That's my mission.
Beautiful.
Do not let anyone tells you to define you. Make yourself happy and do not care what anybody else thinks, because they're not paying your bills at the end of the day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Future is Foster podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Mogi, where we are celebrating all the many voices within the foster care system. And instead of just talking about it, we're going to do something about it. We're going to make changes in the foster system that we wish could have occurred when we were there. And joining us today is the one and only Miss Elvira Laguna. She is a former foster youth, nonprofit advocate, and a community resource navigator at A Sense of Home. Welcome, Elvira.
Hi, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here today.
Thank you so much, Elvira. You have been such a strong force since we initially started talking. I had reached out to A Sense of Home. They're an amazing organization that helps youth decorate and create essentially a sense of home wherever they are transferred to or transitioning to or starting their own life. And I had reached out and said, you guys have an amazing organization. I want to hear about it. I want someone to advocate, preferably a former foster youth, that could come and just share their story. And they were like, you got to talk to this girl. And that led us to be connected. So tell us a little bit about your early childhood. How did it start?
Yeah, so I'm one of 4 siblings. Grew up with my mother before I got taken away from the Department of Children and Family Services. My mother was both an addict, drug and alcoholic. So there was a lot of negligence there, but I think reflecting back on my early childhood, I really see how it takes a village to raise a kid, right? My neighbors really did show up for us. And although my mom may have been, strung out for a couple of days and passed out, not really providing that supervision, my neighbors were the ones, making sure to take us to dinner or having movie nights and stuff like that. But when my mom was, there, I wouldn't say it was all negative. There were good times too, but, just did endure, physical abuse. And then, DCFS came in, and that's kind of I think I was maybe 8 or 9. I can't really remember. I feel like it's so far from my life now.
Everything
sometimes.
you've overcome since, yeah.
Yeah, and that was when I first went into the Department of Children and Family Services.
And when they removed you from your biological mother's home, did they take you to a foster home first? Where did they place you initially?
So I went to the police station with my siblings.
And they're all older or younger?
Yeah, so I'm the youngest. All of my siblings are older. And basically, the police officer was like, hey, if you have any family members or friends, call them, because we really want to avoid, you going to DCFS, which is so crazy to think about it now, because now they just take you
straight there.
Where back in the day, again, I got taken away in the early 2000s, so they really did want you to go to a safe place, so basically my brother ended up calling his best friend's mom.
Okay.
And when she came up, when she pretty much came to the police station, the officer brought us all 3 out, and she was like, only those 2.
Oh, your siblings.
Yeah.
And why do you think you were singled out?
So growing up, I did experience a lot of just like racial stuff. I'm the only person from all 4 of my siblings that is multicultural, both Hispanic and African American. All of my other siblings are full Hispanic, and my brother's best friend, is Latino, and their parents are Latino, and I was never really allowed to go to their house. They never, wanted me there. So it wasn't like a surprise for me. I think it was just more hurtful because, the only thing that I had that was close to me was my siblings.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm so young. I'm in a scary situation. And, like, you as an adult chose to take only 2 kids instead of 3.
To really just leave the youngest, most vulnerable one already facing such high levels of racism before you even really knew what racism even was. And your siblings, they got to go to a home. They were safe. They were okay. You were put into the system alone. And what happened next?
So I ended up calling my Uncle Eddie, which is a neighbor that I have. To this day, we still have a relationship. I call him my uncle. And yeah, him and his wife picked me up and, took me home. I was there for a little bit. And then I ended up leaving his place and kind of bouncing around through multiple group homes and foster homes. And I think part of the reason why I ended up leaving there was because, when I was with my mom, I was able to do whatever I wanted, right? I was like, unhinged.
No parents, literally.
Just unhinged. And going from that to like having so much structure was really difficult for me. So I did, lash out a lot. And on top of that, he lived across the street from my mother. So the combination of like me, having a hard time adjusting to the structure, my mom would get really drunk and then come over and like start cussing and yelling.
How are you supposed to heal if you're in the place that caused you pain, essentially? And you bring up a really good point about having to go into that structure. That's a common trend I've realized from a lot of other former foster youth, even in my situation. I love my family and they're amazing, but I had gone from doing whatever I want, when I want, doesn't matter what time of the day, wearing anything, listening to anything. And then I was put into a home of a family that's loving and aware and wants to protect me. And I totally, same thing, I'd spiral out. I'd be like, what do you mean I can't go out till 1 a.m. in the morning and I'm 13? What do you mean I can't do this, do that? Like now looking back on it, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why would they let you do that? And it was the first time I ever had people really, I'm not going to say controlling, I'll say parenting, because it was parenting, and that's a really hard adjustment to have. How was the next homes that you went into?
Yeah, so after that was my first time living in a facility in Pasadena called 5 Acres. And that was just one of like the most difficult times in my life. And I think
How old were you?
I was like probably between like 9 and 10. 9, 10, or 11. One of those ages.
Yeah.
I was really young. And that was like really, I think, where a lot of just my negative habits of coping with stuff started. When I was living in that facility, I was sexually assaulted multiple times by a staff member.
Wow. Did you ever try to speak up about it? Or?
No. Even to this day, like, I mean, I'm saying it now, but like, I know that like at that time, just like seeing there and seeing how other girls try to speak up and like.
Saw them be silenced.
Yeah. And like penalized. Which is like crazy, especially when like you think that you're like going to be in a safe space.
A place to rehabilitate you and heal you. It's just causing you more harm.
And like harm that I never experienced when I was with my mom. And it's like, yeah, my mom was a drug addict and alcoholic, but like
no one was taking advantage of you.
Yeah, like I didn't get sexually abused.
Absolutely.
I didn't get my innocence taken from me when I didn't choose that.
To have all this feelings of, anger and confusion and emotion, and then to be put in a situation where you're essentially told to be silenced, then another situation where you're being taken advantage of and still silenced. How did you cope with being there?
It was hard. I think that was the first time that like I really experienced getting high, using drugs, and just really just like medicating myself. From that kind of spiral.
At 10?
At 10.
Yeah.
And then from there, you know, it kind of just along the courses of me going to other placements and foster homes, it just spiraled into just like getting high and drinking and then
That was all you had
partying.
control over, essentially, was your act of rebelling. And how would you have known that? Or I remember when I would like get bad grades, they would be like, oh, well, do better with your grades and do better in school because then the future is yours. And I'd be like, I don't care about the future. Like, I'm in pain now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think I'm going to make it that far, you know? And
Yeah.
so as you were spiraling through, going through the system in your teenage years, which are so formidable, what was your experience like as you were spiraling?
It was really confusing and lost, and just like, I think that especially like going through sexual assault, and anybody that has also gone through that, I think that you start to connect, you know, yourself with this thing happening to you.
Like, that's your entire identity.
Yeah. And like, I really like fell into a dark hole of just connecting sex with something I had to do for someone to care about me or like me. You know what I mean?
You wanted to feel accepted in the group home.
Yeah.
And who was going to tell you, no, you don't have to do that? You didn't have a support system. You didn't have family members. And as you were going through that mode of just your teenage years, what was going through your mind as you were going from home to home and dealing with that lack of stability?
A lot. I mean, I definitely like went through like thoughts of suicidal ideation. I went through thoughts of, I mean, I you know, used to cut myself, and I think there's just like really no motivation at that point. You're just kind of just going through the motion. You're not even physically there or mentally there.
You're just surviving. You're not even living at that point.
Yeah.
Totally. And after you had left 5 Acres, I know you jumped around to different placements.
Yeah, I went AWOL for about a year and a half. From my last placement. It was just like insane there. Like, it was so chaotic between fighting and just like drugs and
almost feels safer sometimes to not be in the foster home, to be on the streets, to be couch surfing if you don't have that safe space in that foster home.
Yeah, 100%. So I was AWOL for a year and a half, and basically in that time I was me and one of my really good friends, we ran away, and we were like not that far, city over, living with her cousin. He was older, you know, had his own place with him and his girlfriend. And yeah, it was just like a year and a half of just like hardcore partying and doing drugs and sleeping around. And
How old
like,
were you
I'm
at
like
this
13.
age?
I'm like
Wow.
13 at this time, which is like insane also to think
Absolutely.
back to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, how was I doing that? And like, how was no one looking for me?
And how is no one saying, why is she here? You know? Oh my gosh.
So crazy. I mean, I've lived in over 30, you know, foster home group homes within the whole time of, during the duration of me being in foster care. But from jumping from like 10 to about 17, you know, I went to heritage group homes where I'm now on the board of that, which is amazing.
Congrats.
Thank you. And that's where I really found, like, one, healing my trauma, and two, my safe space.
Oh. When was that moment that everything clicked, that you felt safe?
For me, it was just like, so shout out to my Meemaw, Alicia Myers. I love you, girl. Yeah, I love her. She was our middle manager when I lived there. And she's like from the South, Lafayette, Louisiana. Like, she did not play. Miss Girl did not play.
No
like,
AWOLing.
Yeah, she did not care, you know? And I remember a specific experience where I was like still new there. I had got kicked out from their Whittier home because I was like
So
doing
it was
the
a
most.
different home under Heritage Home?
Yeah, so they have multiple homes, but I was in their Whittier home, didn't care. I was like, you know, in continuation school, and they were like, you're going to go to Phillips Ranch. Like, you're done. You know, like, this is your last straw. I was like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
You
What do
know,
you have to
like,
lose?
what are you
Nothing.
gonna do? You're not gonna tell me nothing. So I go there, and like first day was like, I'm not gonna go to school. This woman, I was sleeping in my bed, and she got some pots and pans and was like, you're not gonna sleep? You're not gonna let me do what I need to do? You're not gonna sleep then. And was like banging these pots and pans so loud. I'm like, she's insane. This woman is insane.
How dare she make me go to school?
Exactly. 17 with no credits.
Essentially, someone was sticking up to you,
Yeah.
you know? And what did you do after that?
She took me to school. And And, you know, when I got back home, she was just like, hey, like you're 17, you're a senior, and you have 8 credits. Like, what are you going to do with your life? You know, like, you can't keep doing this, you know? Like, she's like, after you turn 18, like, it's done. Like, you're not, she's like, I'm not going to be able to take you to school. I'm not going to be able to do this. So, like, what
no
are
one's
you
waking
going to
you
do?
up.
Yeah. And it was like a real reality check for me where I was like,
Thinking about your future for the first time.
yeah. And like, not only that, but no one cared enough to sit there and have a conversation with me like she did. The whole time I was in foster care, it was, you're not going to be anything. You're going to be a drug addict. You're going to end up dead. You know, there was no positivity for me to look forward to.
Seeing other people go through something and overcome it. It's just, you thought this was a situation you're in and this is it. You can't get out of it.
Yeah.
But Mima had different plans
And
for
she
you.
was like, girl, you gonna do something with your life. But yeah, so like she just really, I think, made me, one, care enough about myself to heal my own wounds, you know, to actually talk to my therapist that was available to me and not just rebel and not say anything. You know, she has really been there for me, even to this day. You know, I owe so much of my successes to her, you know?
That's beautiful. She, you know, lit the match, and now you're spreading wildfires of support and care to foster youth all over. And that's so beautiful. And specifically, you mentioned that she had you go into therapy. What was that like, first starting therapy?
It was hard. I mean, I'm not trying to get emotional.
It's okay.
It was hard. I think that, like, sometimes people see you, like, as you are, and they don't really, like, see all of you. They just see...
Or they put a label.
Yeah. You know, and it's like I'm not... One, I didn't freaking choose to be in foster care.
No.
Like, this is a reaction of my parents' consequences. But you're treating me like I chose to be in this position. You know? So, like, going through therapy was hard because I had to reopen all those wounds, all of those...
You've closed up, cemented.
Yeah, and it's, like, so many layers that you have to, like, unravel to really, like, see all of yourself.
And you can't even get any work done until you see all of yourself. And I think people think that they can just go to therapy and like, okay, did a couple sessions, I'm healed, I'm good.
Yeah.
But it's like, no. Like, you need to go into the deep trenches of your soul because there's so much that we all close up and hide. Therapy's hard. It's not easy. It's not a fix-all for anything because you have to do the work and people don't want to do the work. But there was something in you that was like, I need to do some work.
Yeah.
At this age of you being 17, you have no idea of what your future is going to hold. You barely have any education under you, years and years of trauma. What was that moment of you essentially turning 18, aging out, and where you went from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think like when I was at Heritage, it's crazy to say, but like you just have that moment where you're just like, the flip gets switched. You know, and it doesn't happen to everyone.
No.
Sometimes it happens earlier. And for me, it was just like I'm tired. I'm tired of like
running.
Yeah. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of just doing the same thing, and like I want more and I want something different, you know? So I just like buckled up. I did all my credits, graduated early, was working at that time at McDonald's. Shout out to McDonald's.
Shout out to McDonald's.
Worked there for 10 years. Yeah, and then did my ILP classes. So at that time...
That's the independent living program.
Yeah, so that was like... I'm so grateful for that because I learned just so many like life things like cooking, cleaning, like just basic essentials, you know,
that people take for granted because you're taught by your parents and you're taught by people on how to do things and you just don't know. And I love how you're really taking a shine on the independent living program because that's a resource that's out there, but not everyone knows exists.
Yeah.
And how did that next chapter of your life start?
So yeah, I emancipated out of the system, and then I was going to college, and then I had the opportunity to work at a group home, actually at a very young age, at 19. And yeah, that's kind of just how my, I guess, nonprofit social services journey began. I mean, I always knew at a young age from my experience of not having, you know, a safe person that I always wanted to be that person for other former foster youth.
You just didn't know how yet.
Yeah. So like I knew I wanted to do something within, foster care. I just didn't know what. So yeah, I started to go to school, worked at a group home. That's where I got my experience, and then got my AA, then my bachelor's. Now I'm in my grad program, getting my MSW.
Wow, congratulations. That's amazing news.
Yes.
That's beautiful. And did you ever think as a kid that you would be able to get educated and have these opportunities?
I would say that, like, deep inside my heart, I knew that was going to be something in my life. I think that, like, the people around me tried to suppress that thought.
In what way?
By just telling me I wasn't going to be anything in my life. But, like, I always knew, even when I lived with my mom and, like, times were the toughest, I'm like, I'm going to be somebody someday.
You're getting out of this neighborhood.
I knew. Yeah.
You knew it.
Yeah.
You absolutely did. And that kept you afoot and grounded to keep on pushing forward. When you were working at the group home being 19, was it weird maybe seeing people that you're like, wait, I was just in your position 2 years ago? Was there any kind of like imposter syndrome or feelings of like, who am I to give resources and help people when I'm still healing myself?
Yeah, it was really hard. I think that I'm so grateful for those experiences, especially being so young.
Yeah.
Because working in social services is hard.
Stressful.
It's not only that, but like you get so emotionally attached, especially for people who haven't been in the foster care system. But having that lived experience on top of it, like I'm so grateful for those early experiences because I learned how to set boundaries and to know like I can't save everyone.
Yeah.
And
they have to save themselves sometime, you know?
And my job is to plant a seed and to hope it grows. That's my mission. And that's what I do.
That is such a beautiful, I like that. Plant a seed and just see where it grows. What are some advice or tips that you have for people that are feeling lost and without a home right now?
That's a good question. Hit me with a curveball. I mean, it's hard. I mean, my favorite quote is, I have it tattooed on my leg. It's, legacy is greater than currency. And I think that's such an important quote because I think in life, people chase money, people chase, worldly things, and the only thing that can really make you happy is yourself. And I think my biggest advice would be to anybody out there would be, do not let anything anyone tells you to define you. Make yourself happy and do not care what anybody else thinks because they're not paying your bills at the end of the day. And I wish I would have learned that sooner.
Exactly. You're a mother now.
Yeah.
You went through your whole life having to parent yourself and not have a mother. What was that journey like of, okay, I'm having a kid. I need to be something I never had?
Yeah, it's hard. I think that, I love my daughter. She is just the biggest blessing and miracle of my life.
How old is she?
She's 17 months.
Oh, the baby.
Yeah,
oh my
she's
gosh. You're really in the cut.
Yeah. And I think having a kid, through my pregnancy, I had a very high risk pregnancy. I had placenta previa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there was multiple times that I was rushed to the hospital because I was bleeding and I was thought I was miscarrying. And they're like, yeah, she's great. She's good. Heartbeat great.
Your body's just
I'm like, girl, stop scaring me like this. So just her being here, on this side is a blessing. And she's just the light of my life. And, she's the crazy thing about healing and therapy is that it's never ending, and when I was pregnant, a lot of the stuff that I thought I had healed from came back so much harder.
In what way?
Just my, abandonment issues, my trust issues, my mom, my dad, being pregnant and having a child, you're oh my God.
That's your priority.
Yeah. And then you start thinking again, why wasn't I a priority? I see my daughter, right? And I can never imagine, I'm sorry.
No,
I could never, ever imagine not being with her, because I love her so much. She is the reason why I'm able to do everything that I do. My world, revolves around her, and my schedule will be adjusted to hers, not the other way around,
Exactly.
I forgive my mom, but I'll never understand.
No, never.
Exactly.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. You can forgive You know, it's impossible to forget. And sometimes you can't understand, but you'll accept it.
Yeah, and I would say too, I think being a mother too has healed me in so much ways too. I feel like I am healing my childhood, you know, my inner
doing
child.
all the things you never got to do.
Exactly. And I think that's like the positive thing about having a child is that like I get to remake my childhood with hers, you know, like literally last night, like she's like funny because she puts on glasses and she dances, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna put my shades on and dance with her. And I'm like, we probably look like two dorks literally like in the living room like spinning in circles, but like it's also so healing for me too, because it's like I didn't get to experience
You wish you
that.
had a room, throughout your teen years, everything.
Yeah.
You wish you could have just been able to dance and shake it out.
You know, so I just like really tried to, you know, give her that attention and, you know, just be there for her and really just like be present. Because I think as a parent, when you're juggling so much stuff too, it gets so hard just with the day-to-day life of work and, you know, everything else.
Being an advocate, saving lives.
Yeah,
really.
because I do so much. So I really try to make it a priority to really be present with her. Yeah.
And I lay down everything, every part of me, I'm yours. Oh, through everything you stand, and
That's all.
in it, I'm yours.
Bye.
Thank you so much for sharing this, Elvira. It is just, I'm so fortunate to not only be able to be in the presence of someone who has helped so many people, but also just how effortless you've been able to share your story and laugh and cry, and everything is just, there's so much realness and authenticity. It's such an honor. You've made my life so easy. But last but not least, do you have any shout outs to some other organizations or people that have just helped you, your village, essentially, that you want to thank them?
Yeah, definitely. I want to shout out Sense of Home for giving me the platform to be able to be myself, my authentic self, and never making me feel like I need to be someone that I'm not. Shout out to my daughter's father because he helps a lot too, and his mom, his whole family, and my mom, Jennifer. And I feel like I'm forgetting someone. If I didn't mention you, I'm sorry. But yeah. Shout out to me too.
Shout out to Elvira. You made it this far. But perfect. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of The Future is Foster. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. If you want to learn more about A Sense of Home, Elvira, The Future is Foster, and all the amazing resources so we can help keep uplifting foster youth, click the links below. And don't forget to tune in to our next episode. See you later.